and welcome to my kitchen. You've all been asking me on Instagram and Facebook for a little tutorial on how to make homemade pasta. So here I am, I've got my dough, I've got my machine, and this is probably the easiest pasta recipe to do. So I've actually already made my dough. You can see it's really well rested. When I push down it kind of springs back up. The easiest ratio ever is 100 grams of pasta flour, so 00 flour, 1 large egg, a pinch of salt and a teaspoon of extra virgin olive oil. Mix that up in your machine and this is what you're going to get. Now that feeds one person, so just adjust your ratios for how many people you're feeding. So we've just given it a really quick knead, and the easiest way to knead it is using the palm of your hand, so kind of pushing down and kind of rolling it out and then back towards yourself. Now this is quite a bit of pasta. I'm feeding me, my hubby and my neighbour tonight for dinner. So I'm just going to cut a little piece off and just make sure that every time you put your dough to the side, just cover it just so it doesn't start to dry out. Now I always like my dusting flour to be a mix of 00 flour and semolina. I just find that the semolina doesn't absorb into the dough and it helps it from getting too wet and sticky. So you just want to start to roll it out nice and thin. Now I think with any homemade pasta, probably the biggest key is actually in the laminating. So obviously this dough is quite soft, so we want to get it quite firm, and that's what helps to give it that al dente texture by really working the gluten. So we're going to start on the thickest setting of my machine and work down to the thinnest, and we're going to do that 3 times to make sure it's really nice and laminated. Right, then we're going to fold it up into a book, essentially. We're going to just dust it again in that flour and then roll it back. So that is our first lamination. And then we'll put it back on our thickest and go through again. See how long and thin that's getting, so we'll fold it one more time back into a book, and again some more of that dusting flour and roll it back out. And now we're going to roll it through the machine but to our desired thickness. So we'll start on the large one. So for me, my pasta is ready when I can just start to see my hand coming through the back of the dough. I'm serving this with a meat ragu, so I want it to be a little thicker than a spaghetti. So we're going to make some hand-cut tagliatelle. So the easiest way to do that is now we've got 1 sheet of pasta. So you want to really generously put some flour, so heats that dusting flour, and then you want to fold that over. Dust the top, then we're going to straighten up our edges. So I'm using a massive wooden board. I highly recommend that you make your pasta on a wooden board. The dough just doesn't stick and it just heats easier. So cut off your edges, make it nice and square. Now this is where you need to make sure you've got lots of flour. What you want to do is you want to now fold this over once, flour it, fold it again, flour it a bit more, and then fold it for the last time. Add some more flour. Now this is just going to come off at the end anyway, but this is how we're going to make our hand cut tagliatelle. So we're going to take the edge off, and just begin to cut. Alright, so these scraps you can actually roll through again and use this for lasagna sheets. You can just freeze them, but here we have our hand-cut tagliatelle, which are so beautiful. You just unravel them like that, and fresh pasta takes about 1.5 to 2 minutes in some salted boiling water. So there you go, the super quick and easy recipe for tagliatelle.